I wanted to explain exactly what rent to own is and typically how it works. It can vary from person to person depending on who you're renting from and what their rent to own structure looks like. But I wanted to give you just the kind of nuts and bolts of it to make sure you understand what to look for going in to a rent to own, and to make sure that it is in fact something that is a good fit for you. It is I'll say non-conforming or creative way to become a homeowner, but it can get a little bit tricky, and I've seen some of those rent to own situations not work out, and it's really important that you understand a few things. One is you need to have some type of written, very specific agreement about how your right to purchase the property is protected. What I mean is, oftentimes in a rent to own, there's a verbal agreement between the resident, the buyer, and the owner of the property that says, yeah, you rent it, and in 2 years or whatever, whenever you're ready, I'll give you the opportunity to purchase it. But the terms might not be spelled out. And what do I mean by the terms? Like, your rent amount might not be enough to cover rent plus a down payment. And it doesn't necessarily mean when you're making a rent to own payment of $1,200 a month, that may all be going towards rent. So if you have an understanding or an expectation that, say, $100 a month of that goes towards the purchase price, then that needs to be documented in the rent to own agreement. One thing you need to understand is at some point when you refinance that rent to own, you're going to a conventional mortgage company. They won't recognize that rent to own agreement as a purchase agreement. So they won't see that you're refinancing. They'll treat it as a purchase, which means that you'll need to put the normal down payment money into the deal. So if you go FHA, you'll have to put 3.5% down plus your closing costs. So you really should have that conversation up front with a lender and also with the owner of the property so that you can understand and know what you're going to pay for the property, because you may agree on a rent and that you have the opportunity to purchase it, so now you have a rent to own, but you really need to lock in a purchase price. If you don't, you may pay $1,200 a month for 4 years, and the owner of the property has the right to say, well, today's market value is $150, you can buy it for $150. Well, maybe 3 or 4 years earlier, they were only asking $130 for it. It might not seem like the best thing for them to do, but if you don't have a written agreement, it's not morally or legally unacceptable. They're perfectly within their rights to do that. So when you do a rent to own agreement, make sure that you have documented the terms of how you can purchase the property.